Wake up, Twins territory. Welcome to another Tuesday night edition of Twins Hangouts. I'm Jeremy Nygaard, joined live by Seth Stowes, and we have a special guest tonight, a man that needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Two-time Collegiate Gold Glove winner, also Florida State League champ, hero of Game 4, I think it was. Also, Player of the Year in the MAC in college, and that is the man with the mustache, Jason Kanzler. How you guys doing tonight?
Great. How about you?
Hey, we're good because we're having you on, so we get to ask you all the hard-hitting questions, and hope you're ready for those.
I'm ready.
Seth, how are you
I'm
doing?
going to start with
You
one
gonna say
question.
anything?
I'm doing good. But I got to ask you one question. What was the genesis of this "Wake Up Twins fans" thing as your intro? Did that just like come to you, or what was that all about?
Well, I mean, I've been doing it for like the last 4 months.
I know, but I just realized it's like 9 o'clock at night, so like it's kind of funny.
Well, it's 9 o'clock at night, and people kind of usually go to bed, so I'm telling people to wake up. But do you know how your daughter, she's in that age where Full House is cool?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Wake Up San Francisco.
Yep.
That's where it came from.
Yeah, when I went to San Francisco for work here about a month ago, she actually asked me if I was going to meet Danny Tanner, and her hero was Jesse Kasopoulos. So, oh yeah, I was pretty cool when I came back with cool stories about meeting them. But don't tell her they weren't real.
See, now you're dating us because we're older, and
I'm old.
Kanzler, he's the era behind that, I think, a little bit.
I saw a little, was it Full House?
Yeah, was that your
Yeah.
show? But I mean, that was like,
I watched it a bit.
yeah, see, just a little bit.
All right, should we jump
Hey,
into some questions
no, I got
for
a
Jason
quick,
right away before he thinks we're crazy?
I got a quick sitcom question for Jason. Kelly Kapowski, what does that name do for you?
Kelly Kapowski?
Yep.
Uh, it does nothing. Is she in Full House?
No.
It does absolutely nothing. My
Saved by
girl,
the Bell. Saved by the Bell. You don't even watch Saved by the Bell.
I guess I didn't. My girlfriend just gave me a death stare because I didn't know that.
That's
Kelly
fantastic.
Kapowski.
See, because she's all about Zach Morris, I bet.
AC Slater, actually.
Oh,
I knew that.
fair enough. All
All
right,
right.
Seth, go ahead and ask your baseball questions.
All right. Well, let's start with the whole "you were the hero" in the Florida State League championship game. I mean, take us back to that actual Game 4. It's extra innings, and you're coming up with, I think, 1 or 2 runners on in a tie game. Your team needs a run, and you can potentially win the championship. What were your thoughts going into that at bat?
Well, Adam Brett Walker led off the inning with a double, and Tyler Grimes popped up his sac bunt attempt, and it got caught by the catcher. And as he was walking back to the dugout, he just told me to pick him up. So, I was really just honestly trying to put the bat on the ball because that whole game, the ball looked like a little BB. I was trying to take Doug's advice. He told me just slow the game down, slow it down, relax. Yeah, and I just put a really good swing on it, and it went far.
Did you know it when you hit it?
Uh, I mean, I knew I hit it really well. It was it was more line drive trajectory, but it was a slider, so it had extra added backspin. I knew it was a game. It was going to get a run in either way. I didn't know if it was going to go out or not.
And then rounding the bases, you get to the dugout, and we saw the video. Your teammates pretty much demolished you there for a while. I mean, what was that like? Just knowing you were about to get beaten up. But I mean, I can imagine just your heart pounding, and I mean, what was the emotion like there?
It was awesome. They definitely demolished me when I touched home plate, and then a lot more so when I got in the dugout. You can't see that in the video, but they really gave it to me good.
No concussions though, right?
No, thankfully.
Yeah.
More.
But that wasn't even your best necessarily game. It was obviously the big hit, but it wasn't even necessarily your best game of the championship series.
That was a terrible game, that game, except for that last at bat.
Yeah. But I think it was game one. Your team was down early, and you ended up with a grand slam and another huge hit. I think you had 6 or 7 RBIs. I mean, what was that experience like playing in the playoffs and obviously contributing?
I love playoff baseball and postseason baseball. It's awesome. I think everyone plays better because no one's worried about stats anymore. It's just win at all costs. And playing in the playoffs is special. I loved it.
Hey, speaking of that home run, I think I got the audio all queued up, so we should just listen to it one time because it's awesome. So I hope you guys can hear this.
Can he harness the power of the mustache? Here's the pitch. Hit well out to deep left center field. Long run going back to the track to the wall. This ball is out of here. 2-run homer. Jason Kanzler. Kanzler homers. He homers. Miracle lead 4-2 in the 11th inning. A line rocket to deep left center field. Goodbye, baseball.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
And everybody is out, and everybody looks jacked. It's phenomenal, and it's the power of the mustache.
Yeah.
So what is the genesis or the story of the mustache? I mean, obviously, this isn't your first time with a mustache. Obviously, you became quite popular with it.
No.
So what is the story of that?
This is not my first mustache rodeo. I've grown a few times in college. It seems to come in well and thick and burly. But when the Twins sent me my minor league handbook, it explicitly states no facial hair except mustaches, and someone dared me to do it this spring training, so I did it. And then it was a little bit of a rebellious thing, but it kind of grew into its own living, breathing entity.
I mean, it was like a cult.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, like halfway through the first half of the season, maybe around like early June, even late May, people just referred to me as Mustache, and there was people in the stands with mustache posters and stuff. Mr. Mustache. I don't think they knew my name. I just had a mustache.
Oh, man. Well, the Cedar Rapids had the big, huge scoreboard out in right center, and I mean, your mugshot pretty much showed the mustache. So, I mean, that's probably where it came from.
And the guy, the Miracle guy, media guy, I guess, who handles the scoreboard, the picture they had to use for my headshot, it was actually my spring training picture, and I did not have a mustache, so he photoshopped my mustache from Cedar Rapids onto my face.
That makes it even better.
Yeah.
So was it like properly fitted, or was it even bigger?
It was so well. I was wondering where they got that picture because it was so real, yet it had never been taken.
It's awesome.
It was good.
If he got a picture of me, could he put a sweet mustache? Because I tried to grow a mustache, and everyone told me that it was super creepy.
I'm sure he could put my mustache on your face.
That would be awesome.
Instantly not creepy.
That'd be super cool.
We'll talk to him.
I want that mustache. I seriously, I shared the story with you, and I think I probably shared it with Seth. But when after the game, when I was down at Cedar Rapids and I saw you, I just yelled, "Hey, nice mustache!" And you didn't even faze you. You just kind of gave a wave, and it was like no big deal.
I heard that so many times. That was my response. People would say nice mustache, and I just give a little flick of my hand.
Yep, that's all it was.
Either that or Jeremy had his creepy mustache, and you were like not wanting to make eye contact with him. So
no, Jeremy had a lot of party at the ballpark Coors Lights that night, so that's what happened.
All right, let's go back to spring training then. Obviously, you actually didn't start with Cedar Rapids, but I think, 3 days into the season, you were with Cedar Rapids. talk about playing in April in Cedar Rapids. I mean, you're from New York, so you probably played in some cold weather. But what was it getting to that first, the first month in Cedar Rapids?
I think I was more well prepared than most people because of my college baseball playing days, but it was still, you never really get used to it. You kind of survive April and a little bit of May. I had a few teammates who thought that it actually made them swing better because if you don't hit the ball on the barrel, your hands are going to feel like they're broken the rest of the game.
And there.
It's terrible. But makes
with me it wouldn't be a problem because if I just don't hit anything, my hands don't hurt.
Yeah, well, that was my case a little bit too. So
yeah, I mean, it's perfect. It's not, but you got to make it through the dog days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, so the Cedar Rapids team, there were a lot of guys kind of in your same situation, college guys, and then there were a lot of younger pitchers. I mean, what was the atmosphere with that Colonels team? I mean, there was a pretty broad range of age, nationalities, and everything. How did that team kind of gel, especially in that second half after a tough first half?
Well, yeah, we had a lot of fourth-year college guys. Kind of an older team for that level. I guess we were a little salty. Let me think. We gelled fine though. It was the only thing that was a little tough was there were so many roster changes throughout, the time I was there. We didn't really have a team. We had a revolving door of players. Really, a lot of injuries. Just a lot of roster shifts. But the core group, we meshed well. The Spanish speakers, there was no divide really. We all learned a little conversational Spanish to get by.
Hey, I got a question, just a random Cedar Rapids question.
Yeah.
Of the pitchers that you were teammates with, you could throw Fort Myers in there too. Of the pitchers that you were teammates with, which is the guy you would least like to stand in the box against?
Ooh. Jake Reed, without a doubt for me.
Yeah, he's been pretty filthy.
I got to watch his fastball from center field, and maybe my eyes deceive me, but it looked like it has about near a foot of tail, which is a lot when it's coming in at 96.
And so that includes guys like Cole Stewart, Nick Birdie, Lewis Thorpe.
Yeah, I think just purely how hard it would be to hit Jake Reed's fastball. I don't even have to worry about the off-speed stuff. His fastball alone would be almost impossible.
That's fantastic news for Twins fans.
Yeah.
Because Birdie looked the game I saw Birdie, the game that Seth saw Birdie was his first game in Cedar Rapids where he walked, I think, 14 batters. But then I saw a game where the scoreboard at Perfect Game was, I think it said like 98 or 99 on the scoreboard. So we usually add like 2 or 3, right? Is that accurate?
That's accurate, yeah. I think this game he touched 102, I think.
And then he on the scoreboard threw just a nasty slider that was on the scoreboard at 89, but it was was super filthy.
Yeah.
So I saw a good him, but you were standing in center field for him and for Jake Reed. For all those guys.
Well,
so that's pretty.
I got to watch. I got to see Birdie from behind, Zach Jones from behind, and Jake Reed. And honestly, I would not want to face any of them. I think they're all big league, caliber right now. But I didn't see anyone really have even a modicum of success against them.
And it makes center field pretty easy if nobody hits it.
Oh yeah, I would just shift really far over to the opposite field side for the batter and kind of laugh.
Hey, you mentioned those guys are big league ready now, and you've spent the last couple months in Fort Myers, but do you feel honestly that defensively you could play in the big leagues right now?
Yeah, defensively, yeah.
What is it about your defense? Obviously, the 2 Gold Gloves in college, so there's a reputation there. but obviously that's backed by. I mean, we've both seen a few games. We've seen some highlights. But what is it about your defense that you think is kind of your thing?
I think I get really good jumps, mostly because I anticipate and I read the batter's body as he swings. Sometimes people think I'm cheating. I just read batters really well, so I kind of get a step before they hit the ball. That helps a lot, cutting off the gaps. And I like to dive and I like to get dirty and kind of throw my body around. And pitchers love it when I do that. And sometimes I come up with a catch. Sometimes I get a control.
Right. I always felt, especially after, you had been in Cedar Rapids for a couple of months, that your promotion to Fort Myers was really kind of contingent on Buxton getting through whatever time period the team felt he needed to get ready to go to New Britain. And that, I mean, did you start wondering with all the injuries when that was going to happen? I mean, obviously I'm sure it was frustrating for Byron Buxton and others, but it just felt like there was a direct correlation between that happening.
No, yeah, I think that was established with me that I'm pretty much the center fielder, behind Buxton right now. I'm fine with that. And I mean, I wasn't getting frustrated when he was getting injured because that's a bad situation for him. I felt terrible for him. He should have probably touched the big leagues this September. He kind of got a whole season taken away from him. On the other hand, it was sweet when I got called up and he stuck around for 2 weeks and I got to play side by side with him. That was awesome.
Were you all like, dude, how come I'm not playing center? How many gold gloves do you have?
No. I would just tell him he's in the wrong position.
Did any balls in the games that you guys played in the same outfield, did any balls land on that side of the outfield?
Honestly, I can't remember nearly any. There was one where I was playing right and he was playing center and he dove and it hit off his glove. That's the only one I remember that actually fell. That was even a chance in hell catchable ball. But all the catchable balls, they were caught.
Did you tell him afterwards that you would have caught it?
No, but I would dog him other ways. We started calling him Brandon Baxter, and we just called him any name besides Byron Buxton. Even Doug started calling him the wrong name.
Hey, how would you describe the difference between, or what you saw the differences between the Midwest League and the Florida State League?
If any. Pitchers have more polish in the Florida State League. I think the velocities are lower in the Florida State League, but the control is a bit better, and especially the control of off-speed pitches. They'll throw more off-speed in fastball counts. It's not as predictable, so naturally you have to be that much better at the plate. Fastballs have a little more movement as well.
Sure. Can you tell me, obviously Doug Minkiewicz is a guy who has interviewed for the Twins job. I think what Jake Mauer's done in his tenure as a coach or manager in the Twin system is terrific. Can you kind of compare and contrast the two coaches? On the things that you would feel are important for a manager to be?
Sorry, want me to compare and contrast Mauer and Minkiewicz?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Jake's like a very relaxed, passive, kind of sit back and let the players play. He's a real great guy, great manager. Very like a quiet, almost like the calm before the storm. Because when he blew up, it was awesome, but he didn't do it frequently. He definitely knows what he's talking about. I loved having him as a manager. And then, but contrasted to Doug. Doug is like a spark plug, and you can tell he struggles having to sit back and let the players play. Like, he wants to be on the field playing. He's probably still a learning experience for him, having to, like, not having control of the outcomes anymore. But on the other hand, he is awesome to play for as well. Kind of felt like with Doug, if you messed up, you almost felt like you were disappointing your father. He just expected so much from you, but in a constructive way, in a good way. I liked it.
How about, Jason, how about the hitting coaches? I mean, Tommy Watkins is certainly a energetic type, and Jim Dwyer seems like he's a little bit more cerebral.
Yeah, I think they're opposites as well. Tommy is, he's fresh off playing also. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, good hitting coach. And then Dwyer is much more, I don't even know. He's crazy too. He's kind of a nutcase as well, but in a different way. We would catch him kind of like doing these weird stretches on the wall of the clubhouse. He would be lying upside down on his back with his legs against the wall. This like 65-year-old man just chilling there. He's a great coach too, though. They're both great.
Hey, can I ask? So you did the Buffalo thing. That's all done. The draft rolls
the
around.
Buffalo thing.
Well, I mean, that's
Is that what they refer to it up there, or what?
Oh yeah, that's how we refer to it too. That whole Buffalo thing.
Well, I mean, I already talked about the Gold Gloves and the Conference Player of the Year. I mean, I don't know what else I should say. So you did that. You leave with you pack your bags. You get all the hardware together, and you get drafted in the 20th round by the Twins. Was that like how was your whole state of mind going into the draft?
Anxious, I guess. I thought if I don't get drafted, I'm probably done playing baseball. I doubt anyone would want a free agent signee of someone who's a fourth-year guy. But just very anxious. I was just hoping someone would take me.
So you didn't have an inkling that the Twins were interested. Well,
I mean, I talked to a bunch of scouts, and they all show interest, but they got to put their money where their mouth is on draft day. The same thing. I mean, that happened my junior year. I didn't get drafted, even though I was getting talked to by a bunch of guys.
So after they draft you, were you contacted immediately? Were you contacted,
Yes.
right before you got drafted? So they make the phone call. They say, "Do we bring you in for a workout, or bring you in and sign a deal, or how did that all go down?"
No, they contacted me right after I got drafted. My area scout, who I was very familiar with, and he said he'd be sending me all the logistical stuff and my flight information, and then got down to Florida and signed my actual contract in Florida about 5 days after.
And then you stayed in Florida, right? That for the rest of that season?
Yes, the GCL.
And how was that?
The Gulf Roast League. It was it was interesting.
Interesting. Because those games happen like at noon, right?
Yeah, noon in the middle of the Florida summer.
So we're talking in the high 80s or low 90s if you're lucky.
No, in the high 90s.
If you're unlucky.
All the
which
time.
You are every day.
Yeah.
Except for Sunday, no games.
Sunday, no games, yes. It was workouts from 8 to 11, and then a game at noon.
So how was that adjustment going from college where you weren't playing every day to now all of a sudden you're playing in the scorching hot heat every day? Like, was that just
Yeah.
the lifestyle just has to be so much different?
It was physically exhausting. It was taxing mentally, obviously physically. I think everyone loses a bunch of weight when they play in the GCL. Kind of end up, at the end of the season, you're just skeletons playing baseball.
So when that last season at Buffalo, how many games did you play? Is it like 60?
Maybe just under 60, including postseason.
And that's from the season starts in March, right?
Yeah, late February, actually.
Okay, so basically late February, March, April, May.
Yeah,
So 3 months.
halfway through May. Yeah.
And that's like 60 games.
Yep.
And then you turn around and play. I'm looking at your stats right here. You play 44 more games between the end of June and the end of August. That's a lot of baseball.
Yeah, but surprisingly not a lot compared to this year.
Right. Played 111 games between the two affiliates. Made your debut with the Colonels on April 10th and played your last regular season game for the Miracle on August 31st. And then how many playoff games was there? Was there like 10 more, or was there more than that?
Played six playoff games. Swept Bradenton in 2 and beat Daytona in 4.
That's fantastic. And a lot of the guys that you played with this year were guys that are 2 years removed from an E-Town championship.
Yes.
Was that talked about a lot during the end of the season or not?
Yeah, definitely. And they have experience winning a championship already. That's always helpful. But yeah, that's the core group of that E-Town championship team was the Miracle team this year.
Hey, Jason, I want to go back to that Buffalo thing. And did you get that one piece of paper that's fairly important, or are you able to go back, or what was your major? What were you looking to do if baseball wasn't there?
Yeah, I graduated. I have a degree in Bachelor of Science in Psychology.
Oh, he's messing with us.
The whole time.
Yeah. So going back, I want to go back to your high school days. I mean, were you just kind of the star of your high school team? I mean, did you have some options coming out of high school? Did you play other sports or that type of thing?
I played soccer my first years of high school and quit because I have terrible aerobic capacity.
Me too, but probably for different reasons.
Better. But no, I wasn't really the star in high school. I was good. There was other people that got more attention, and I actually did not have any offers out of high school whatsoever. 0 offers.
Can you name Can I just ask a quick question? Can you name the 2 other professional baseball players that have come from Penfield High School?
Pat Erkfitz is one.
That's correct.
Penfield High School.
Because you must have. Did you play with him? You must have.
Did. Yeah, I played Legion ball with him a lot, and high school ball 1 year.
Okay, one other one.
Oh, is he older than Pat Erkfitz?
Yes.
Is it Masterton?
No. It's a guy by the name of Frederick Ludwig.
No idea who that is.
So your high school must have been pretty big, huh?
It was. I think I graduated with 420 people. Not too big.
Yeah, a little bit bigger than where I came from. How about you, Seth?
110 in my class.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's what I was too.
Well, I mean, I think there were 110 in my class, and I think like 93 graduated or something like that.
Well, it is by Canada.
So, Jason, you went. I wasn't then, but you went to Instructs this year. I don't think you did last year. Tell us. I mean, is Instructs basically spring training, but after the season, or what's kind of the purpose of that final month?
It's kind of like spring training, but more laid back with a lot more individual attention and coaching. You know, the ratio of coaches to players is more favorable. Yeah, you play games after workouts in the morning, but you get a lot more individualized work done with you. It's not like spring training where you're preparing for a season. Instructs is where you're learning new things specific to what you have to work on.
There would seem to be a lot of value in that, I would think. Do you kind of head out? I mean, you only finished that about a week ago. Do you head into your off season now healthy? And I mean, what are the things you plan on doing here during the off season to get away from baseball for a while?
Yeah, I'm healthy. I've already started working out here in Houston. Um, I plan on just keeping my mind and body healthy, trying to relax a little bit, spend time with my girlfriend and my cat, and see my family in Christmas time. Enjoy the awesome stuff that Houston has to offer. Get my mind away from baseball a bit. I'll
Like
pro-
the Texans.
yeah, I love the Texans. I'll probably end up like giving lessons to kids. That's what I did last off season.
You know J.J. Watt, he's a Wisconsin guy,
Is he now?
and I'm also a Wisconsin guy, so we're practically like
Guy in Texas.
related. I mean, just saying, just throwing that out there.
So you're J.J. Watt? Is that what you're saying?
I could J.J. Watt's a little bit smaller. I'm a little bit smaller than J.J. Watt.
Okay.
I dance better than him, I would think. But, you know,
Hey, now that we've reached the half an hour mark, Jeremy, we should probably let Jason go and enjoy his evening.
I mean, he's always welcome to just hang out and talk. That's what we do.
Yeah, but he's probably got more of a life than we do.
No comment.
No comment.
I'm also not.
All right. Well, I don't really have any further questions. I mean, I'm sure I'll bug you from time to time, but we definitely do appreciate you coming on. Obviously, congratulations on a season where you moved up a couple of levels and won a lot of games and played some great defense, and now have your name in the the record books with the Fort Myers Miracle with their first championship. But I think you got to feel pretty good about your first full season, and we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys having me.
We'll definitely have you back sometime.
Awesome. Look forward to it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
You too.
All right. Now it's just the two of us less fun people.
I know.
So
Now what do we do?
I don't even know. People might not even. Once he got off, people probably just stopped listening.
I know. I bet the listenership went from like 14 to like 4.
It's actually worse than that, but I'll share that with you later. The other things that we were going to talk about. Were the managerial search. Our viewership actually has dropped by 50% since he got off.
Okay.
Our managerial search is really underway, and Chip Hale just was named the manager of the Diamondbacks yesterday. Was it yesterday morning? It was Monday morning. So yeah, today's Tuesday, Monday morning.
Yep.
The Rangers have named 3 finalists, not guys that I'd ever heard linked to the Twins job. So as it appears, we're still looking at the internal candidates, which included Molitor, Minkiewicz, Gene Glynn. Have we heard anything about Terry Steinbach?
See, to me, that was kind of the name that was coming up originally as an option, but I haven't heard anything about him, and obviously I don't think he even took an interview with Arizona. So
No.
I guess I'm not sure. Maybe he wants to just be a bench coach or move on.
Do you think, and the one thing that came up as soon as the Diamondbacks named Chip Hale their manager, the one thing I thought was, is there a connection from Chip Hale to Terry Steinbach? I mean, obviously there's an A's connection in there, maybe not with each other, but there's that connection. They both played for the Twins. Did they play with each other? Could Steinbach, even though he didn't get the managerial job, leave and take a job with the Diamondbacks? Do you think that's something that should be on the radar or not?
Well, I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, Chip Hale was a bench coach with the A's. It's not like he had a managerial job where he had a bench coach that's going to follow him. But I guess Hale would have played with the Twins in kind of 92 through I think 97. Steinbach, I think, was with the Twins in 96, 97, 98, somewhere in that range. So I'm sure they touched paths with the Twins for a year or two.
Chip Hale, it shows 89, 90, and then 93 through 96. And I'm going to check Steinbach out here quickly. Steinbach played with the Twins from 97 to 99, so never actually played with the Twins together.
Okay, and I don't know if that helps or hurts his case, but
Right. Well, I mean, there is always the connection, and I think the immediate connection that people jumped to was the connection between La Russa and Dave Stewart and Terry Steinbach. Right?
right.
La Russa was
Yep.
Steinbach's manager. Steinbach caught Stewart. Um, and Chip Hale also had that A's connection, as a manager in and around there. So I don't know. I mean, that was a name that I had thought it was weird that he hasn't come up yet as an internal candidate. But maybe, and Bruno, we haven't heard anything about him. Who do you know has been confirmed as external candidates?
For the Twins, I mean, we've heard Torey Lovallo. I mean, we do know that Chip Hale did have an interview. Obviously, he's not going to take it at this point.
Actually, he did not have an interview. He canceled his interview.
He canceled it, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we've heard Joe McEwing had an interview, and Sandy Alomar Jr. had an interview.
The guy from who's the Lovallo?
The Red Sox bench coach.
Did he have one?
He did.
Okay, so those are the only three so far that we've heard.
I believe so. And I mean, I think we know that John Russell probably will at that time when the Orioles are done.
Which might be tomorrow?
Could be tomorrow, as early as tomorrow. I mean, Jose Akendo, his name has never come up with the Twins necessarily, but his name has come up as a managerial candidate other places. I mean, maybe he's with the Cardinals at this point. And frankly, we don't know. There might be some other guys that they've talked to that just it never came out.
Right. The other topic that we just need to touch on is yesterday afternoon, the Twins outrighted both Johan Pino and Doug Bernier. And essentially what that means is they were placed on outright waivers. They cleared waivers, and because of how their standing is with their service time, they were both able, and I believe they both did, elect minor league free agency, which essentially means that they had put in 6 years of minor league time. Actually, it means they put in 7 years because the first year's after. But anyway.
And they're both well over that.
Right. They actually both signed with the Twins as minor league free agents last year. So they both made the 40-man rosters different times of the year. What's the likelihood of either, both, neither of those guys being brought back, most likely on a minor league deal?
I mean, like we said, I don't know, which was last weekend or last week or the previous week. I mean, I would think Doug Bernier is pretty likely to come back. I mean, obviously we don't have any inside information on that. I would think they would want him back. But at the same time, he may choose to retire. And Johan Pino, I mean, the fact that they outrighted him isn't surprising. We expected that. But, I think the question mark there is his elbow.
Right.
If he needs surgery or anything like that, the Twins will obviously take care of that. And would he sign back, or would there be other teams? I would think they'd want him back.
Right, and I would think so too. I mean, why wouldn't you? Is he a guy, do you think, that is looking for? I mean, at this point, when you clear waivers, you're not going to spend the winter on a 40-man roster. So. Right. Isn't he in a position of, if he can get a non-roster invitation, isn't that the most likely thing that he would say yes to?
Right, and any team that would try to sign him at this point would give him that.
Right, but you got to think that knowing how many guys have gotten the opportunity with the Twins that have started with just being an NRI would be reason enough to say, yeah, I'll come back. Or does he look at it like, I got my chance this past year, but I knew that Meyer was behind me, May obviously came up, Logan Darnell, Chris Johnson. Barrios isn't far behind. Rogers isn't far behind. Duffy's not far behind. Does he maybe look at this organization as well, I'm not going to get another shot. Maybe there's another team, or do you think it doesn't even matter? Do you think it's just well, how much can I get guaranteed, or how much can I get offered? What does it become at this point?
Well, it's all about opportunity. I mean, because the money is going to be pretty much the same no matter where he goes on a minor league deal. He'll get the non-roster invite to spring training, so it becomes all about the opportunity, I would think. And I mean, you mentioned all starters that that may or may not come up in 2015 or may already be there, and there's always the question of whether or not the Twins might add another starting pitcher. But with Pino, his whole career, he's been not only a starter, but he's spent a lot of time as kind of a swingman, doing a lot of long relief or different roles in relief. So he might look at it, and we'll see. Will the Twins offer Anthony Swarzak or Brian Dunsing? Will they tender them offers? There's some other guys at the back end of that bullpen where there are question marks. He may look at it like, what, if I pitch like I did last year in Rochester to start the 2015 season, maybe I can take that long relief role. And again, whether he's starting or relieving, that paycheck's the same if he gets in the big leagues, and that's obviously where he wants to be. So, I mean, all of that will factor into a guy like that making his decision.
Do you, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but 2 guys outrighted, that's it. Does that number increase here in the next couple days?
I mean, it could. There's no real timeline to anything other than having your roster set in mid-November. So, right. I mean, with the Twins having their organizational meetings this week and maybe finishing that up by Friday, it's very possible they could add another name or 2 or 3 or whatever during this week that we'll find out about either later this week or early the next week. But, I mean, there's really no rush to do that right now with the playoffs still going. And, I mean, they have to make the decision on Burton after the World Series, and they have to, make a few other decisions, but not right now. So the only reason to do it now would be for some strategy, which, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't think they were trying to hide Bernier or Pino at this point from being taken. So I don't know what that strategy might be.
Well, could you speculate? Because I could speculate.
Go ahead.
Well, what did the Twins do a couple years ago when they wanted to keep Hosmeal on the roster?
They added him. They signed him to a minor league deal, and then added him later.
They didn't add him before?
Well, no, they added him with Pinto. They added him in November to the 40-man roster. Last year with Edgar Ibarra, they added him right at this time, right before the World Series.
So there could be a reason to open up roster spots if they want to keep a guy that, if they're negotiating with someone on a minor league deal, that they might want to keep. I mean, that it has potential. I don't necessarily know that it's true. Right. Or who it would
be. Let's throw a name to that. Today I did the players that become minor league free agents at the end of the World Series. A guy like James Beresford. He is going to be a minor league free agent for the 3rd straight year. He's put in his time. If the Twins want to sign him to a minor league contract, but he wants to become a free agent, they, in order to keep him, would have to put him on the 40-man roster, which they can do. So, I mean, that's kind of the debate there.
Right. Would he be the guy, if I said, well, they're going to add a guy, he would be the guy that you would say?
I don't think so. I should look at my article quick to see if there's any of those guys.
I'm reading the article. Demonson Romero, which not with Plouffe playing as well as he has, and Sano. I could see him definitely coming back. Couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I can see him as being a guy that would be a right-handed bat bench early in the season until a Sano or somebody's ready.
I guess for me, I'm thinking they're going to need a AAA they're probably not going to. You think they'll put Sano right in AAA or AA?
Double A.
So you need a AAA third baseman. If Sano comes up, he could also be your AAA first baseman. And he is, like you said, a right-handed bat. And, he has played well recently. So I could see him definitely being a guy they call back. He's been on the 40-man once before. The other name, the name that keeps popping into my head is Danny Ortiz. And I don't know if they would add him. He would be a guy that I would think about. Deolis Guerra is the other name that I would consider, just because he's still only 25, and he has not had great luck. But there's something in there that just makes me think maybe you just give it another shot, maybe one more year. And having him on the 40-man roster wouldn't kill that, because like we've talked about a number of times, there's so many guys on the 40-man that could just be taken off the 40-man.
But see, if they added Guerra right now to the 40-man and protected him from the Rule 5, he would still be out of options in spring training. So my guess is they would want, I guess the only value in adding him to the 40-man roster is they would be assured of getting him for spring training. Right. Whereas if they don't add him, and try to sign him to a minor league deal, he could be selected or he could sign somewhere else.
Right. Right. And I mean, if he's good enough to make the team, the option doesn't matter. If he's not good enough to make the team, you can outright him again. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're coming from. The other names that you mentioned, B.J. Hermson, Adrian Salcedo, Edgar Ibarra, Dan Rolfing, Jairo Rodriguez. So there's a number of guys amongst many. Mark Hamburger is another name that I like. I think he has a chance. But there's not a lot of. Ronaldo Rodriguez had a great year for both New Britain and Rochester. But I don't think he'd be a guy that they would necessarily add, but a guy that they might be interested in, bringing back.
No, I would say the one that's got the upside of the list of potential free agents is still Adrian Salcedo, and he's been healthy the last 2 years, and he's throwing 95 plus. So I mean, there might be reason to add him. He could get some offers from somewhere else. I think a lot of the rest of the guys on the list are guys that if they wanted to, they could bring them back.
Right. Salcedo's just had a lot of injuries, it seems like, over the course of his career with the Twins. I mean, when I think about when he was starting in Beloit, I mean, he was a top 7 prospect in the organization.
Absolutely,
for sure. The other thing that probably needs mentioning was an article today that was posted in the Star Tribune, and I'm going to bring it up here so I can highlight some points. The article was written by Phil Miller, and it was posted, I think, shortly before like 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., and I didn't go immediately to it. In fact, I didn't read it until I still haven't read the whole thing. But I was seeing on Twitter just a bunch of people really unhappy, and I was getting the message that, or getting the feeling that the message was that it was the fans' fault that payroll is low. And some of the quotes that I saw. Now this is coming on the heels of I listened to the fan forum last week with Terry Ryan and Dave St. Peter, and they talked. Someone asked about payroll, and from what I remember, Terry Ryan basically said, we've added payroll. We did it in, I think, 2010. We added payroll. His message was almost like, I feel like I can go to the poll ads whenever, and I don't feel like they're going to say, no, we can't make payroll better or higher. Fast forward to, I guess at this point, rewind a couple years, and I feel like there was a conversation or an interview or something that happened where Terry Ryan basically said that the poll ads gave him the freedom to spend more, and he chose not to. Does that ring a bell or not?
Yeah, that was last year.
Okay, so that was
Where,
it was last year, but reflecting on the previous year.
well, yeah, I mean, it was basically last year saying the poll ad said he could spend more money, but
Right.
either people weren't taking the money from the Twins or they felt it was a better option to get a player, either a younger player, letting them play, or there wasn't anything out there that would necessarily excite them.
Okay, now the quote from Terry Ryan in the article today is, "Payroll will not be an issue. Our payroll is sufficient to field a winning team." He said that on the fan forum. "There are playoff teams with lower payrolls than ours. We can't use that as an excuse." And Dave St. Peter, and now this is in the article, said, "We haven't finalized the 2015 budget, but I can assure you we don't see it going down significantly." Which, read between the lines, if you're given the choice between saying we don't see it going down significantly, we don't see it going up significantly, when one says we don't see it going down significantly, doesn't that mean it's going to go down from where it was last year?
It could.
Okay, and then moving on with that, Miller cites a lot of the attendance stuff. Okay, so how attendance has dropped 9.2% in each of the last 3 seasons, plummeted 30% since the park opened in 2010. And then St. Peter goes ahead to talk about how they spend about half of whatever it is on payroll. So as attendance drops and revenue drops, so does payroll. And that's where I think fans found this to be, the finger was pointed back at them like, hey, you're not coming, so we're not going to spend money. It's the whole chicken and the egg thing. If the team spends money and gets better, people come.
Right.
And they had plenty of time in between the good season 2010 and the All-Star season in 2014 to improve this so that going into 2015, you didn't see a significant amount of people give up their season tickets. Now, as a partial season ticket holder, I renewed. And I renewed because what's going to happen is I'm going to be able to relocate, hopefully where I sit in that same general area, and just get a front row seat instead of a seat farther up the section for the same price. Because I want to be around when Sano and Buxton, and then eventually in the playoffs. And I'm assuming I could get back in, take a couple years off and get back in, and I think that's what a lot of people will do. But there's a lot of people that are bailing, and I can't blame them for that either. So, is it like where did the ball start rolling the wrong way, so that now we're in this catch-22 where it's, well, people aren't coming, so we're not making the money, so we're not spending the money. We're going to continue to lose, and it's a vicious cycle. But where did the cycle begin?
Well, it began in 2010. I mean, when they had about $105 million payroll, and they went to the poll ads and they said, hey, we have a chance to get Orlando Hudson for $4 or $5 or whatever $1 million. Can we go above what our number was? And they said, absolutely. And they got Hudson and went over their budget, and they showed they were willing to do that, and then they lost 99 games or whatever it was. I don't think anyone expected that. And once they started losing some games and it got further into 2011, people started realizing, okay, that really wasn't a fluke. And then 2012, okay, this is getting pretty bad.
Right.
And then 2013 was probably the low point. At least in my mind, it was the low point. And now it's to the point where you don't have the All-Star game this next year. I think a lot of announced ticket sales throughout 2013 were not necessarily in the house. They may have bought their ticket, but they weren't going to the concession stand, and they weren't doing that, buying souvenirs. And that adds up. I mean, at the end of the day, people hate hearing it, but it's a business, and it should be a business, and it should be handled like a business if they want to keep it around. And that 50% of revenue is a number that pretty much all teams use or try to use. I don't know. The biggest thing, and as much as payroll and revenues are dependent upon attendance, I think the fact that there are billion-dollar national TV revenues out there are a bigger factor in revenues, and then local revenues for TV and radio for the Twins is so much smaller than other teams. So, I mean, it's a cycle, but I 100% agree with Terry Ryan that it has nothing to do with payroll. They're not losing games because of the dollars they're spending. They're losing games because they had really bad players and a really bad system for quite some time.
Right. Now, if anybody actually listens to this and hears you say that, they're probably going to bash you. So,
well, and that's fine, because I've been saying that for years, and I think Phil Mackey's calling them payroll whiners. But, I mean, I look at a projected roster for next year. Brian Dozier's still less than 3 years. Trevor Plouffe is in his second year. He's probably going to make $4 to $5 million. Danny Santana, Aaron Hicks, Oswaldo Arcia, Kenny Vargas, Josmil Pinto, Eduardo Escobar, whoever else you have on the bench, Kyle Gibson, Trevor May. If Alex Meyer comes up, Caleb Thielbar, Ryan Buxton, when those guys come up, they're going to make league minimum.
Right.
And I would rather they play than just bring in guys that are going to make and get
$3-4 million.
Paid a lot of money. I mean, I'd expect the payroll to be down at this point. I mean, they went last year. They did spend $24 million over 3 years for Phil Hughes, and they spent $49 million on Ricky Nolasco, and they spent another 11 or 12 on Pelfrey. And 3 years ago, they spent $24 million or $18 million on Willingham, and they went and got other players. They're not afraid to go spend money.
Right.
Then the other side of it is the same people that are whining about the Twins never going out and paying for players are the same ones that complain when free agents end up not turning into what they are, or not turning out to be what they were when they were less than 30. You can't have it both ways.
Right. The comment that Terry Ryan made was everyone will be chasing the best ones. We'll see who has an interest in coming here.
Right. And John Lester's not coming here, and Max Scherzer's not coming here.
Well, and the reality is, for someone to come to a team that's lost as many games as the Twins have, they're probably going to have to guarantee extra years or extra money. And, you know, Dave St. Peter says that. He says it isn't just the annual value, it's the number of years that we have to consider. We're going to explore all avenues of improvement, but you walk a fine line of free agency between value and risk, which I think we've got to, you know, got the chance to see firsthand with Ricky Nolasco, which appears like a risk, Joe Mauer, which appears like a risk, and Phil Hughes, which appears like value. The thing is, the bottom line is for me, and you kind of touched on this earlier, when the core of your team is minimum salary guys, and the minimum salary hasn't been set for last year, it was $500,000 for this year, but when the core of your team is near minimum, your payroll is just not going to be significant. Like you said, Brian Dozier, he's going to make less than $1 million, and you're getting what was he? Was he like a 4-WAR player this year?
Something like that, 3 to 4.
So I mean, his value is 15 to, if you say a WAR is $5 million, I've seen it, you know, like 6.2. If you say his value is 15 to 20, and you're getting him for you know, $750,000. Oswaldo Arcia is going to be part of the core moving forward. He's going to be a near minimum player. You know, he's going to be 560, maybe 570. Vargas and Santana, if they can continue what they did earlier this year, you literally have this offense that, besides Joe Mauer making what he makes, and Plouffe in arbitration making what he makes, and Suzuki, I think, would be the only other one. Everybody else is going to be less than $1 million, right?
Yeah, or Jordan Schaefer will be a little bit over if he's on the roster, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's my point. You can add another hitter if you want, maybe a left fielder. Nelson Cruz isn't coming here.
You might for a ton.
Well, right, but again, I put him in that same category as Josh Willingham at this point with his age and such too. So, I mean, the risk reward, I'd rather go out and get a 28-year-old free agent for 1 year and pay him a little extra for 1 year. In my potential blueprint for the Twins Daily offseason handbook, I have them getting one hitter and one pitcher in free agent with the contingency that you pay extra for that 1 year for those guys to get them to sign for 1 year as opposed to keeping them around for longer.
Right.
I mean, I'd rather give a pitcher who we've talked about Justin Masterson as one example. We've talked about him as a guy who had a bad year this year, but we know he has the potential, and he's been a number 2 type of a pitcher in the past, 210 innings type of guy. I would rather give him 1 year and $12 or $13 million than give him 3 years and 24.
1 year and how much?
I don't know, 12, 13.
Yeah.
No one's going to offer him that. I'm exaggerating here, but I'd rather pay him $15 million for 1 year than 30 for 3.
But isn't that kind of the thing that Phil Hughes faced last year? He could have got 1 year deals for significantly more than what he was making per year in the deal that the Twins gave him.
Right.
So I mean, is that kind of scary when Phil Hughes wasn't willing to bet on himself for 1 year?
Sure.
Sure.
And they got lucky with Phil Hughes, and in
absolutely.
free agency, that's pretty rare. So most likely the next guy they tried to do that had the same pedigree at his free agency time, most likely it's not going to work. The next 2 or 3 probably aren't going to work because that's how free agency works. And the other thing I'd ask people, Phil Hughes, Ricky Nolasco, Kyle Gibson, they're going to be in the rotation. We think and want Trevor May to be in the rotation. They'll have to make a decision on Tommy Malone. And at some point, Alex Meyer's got to come up and have a spot. So are you going to spend a ton of money for a ton of years on another free agent that's going to get a given roster spot in that rotation? It just doesn't make any sense.
Right. I would be totally willing to pay Masterson for 1 year.
Right.
Totally. I mean, what I would love to do is pay him for 1 year and put a second year buyout on there. And maybe you can guarantee 12, 13, 14 million and have a chance to pick him up next year so maybe it's 10 million. Do you think he can get 10 million off last year? Probably not.
Well, he made just under 10 this year. So I mean, I'm guessing he'd be down from there a little bit, but again, if the Twins are going to outbid somebody for a 1 year deal on him, they're going to have to go a little bit higher.
So if they give him 10 million for 1 year with a $2 million buyout for 2016 on a $12 million, I would totally make that deal.
Sure.
And I mean, you're talking
because,
about
again, prospects don't always make it. It's easy to say they're going to, and Alex Meyer's exciting, and Trevor May are certainly improved, but there's no way to say either of those is going to be a guy you're going to have as a fixture either.
right. And you're talking about a guy in Masterson that was an All-Star in 2013. Basically, between 2010 and 2013, pitched between 180 and 216 innings in those years.
Right.
Made in 2010 only made 29 starts. In 11 and 12 made 34 appearances. All but one was a starting appearance. In 2013 made 29 starts and 32 appearances with 3 complete game shutouts. His strikeout rate has never been great. His All-Star year was 9.1. This year it was 8.1. Otherwise, it's during his really good years it was 7-ish. And walks a guy, so even his strikeouts to walk is for his career is around 2.
He's a huge ground ball guy.
Right. And he has won double-digit games. Last year he was 14-10 with a 3.45 ERA. His FIP was 3.35. So I mean, you're talking about a guy once removed. I think, was the offer that he got from the long-term offer he got from the Indians like $85 million?
And he turned it down, yeah.
So, don't you think he's going to be looking for a short deal?
That would be my thought.
It says according to in March he was offered the Indians offered 2 and 3 year proposals worth an estimated $17 million a year. I thought I heard it was higher than that. But I mean, even if that's the case, if you can get him for a year, I would totally that he would be, if I was making my blueprint, he's the number one guy I want on the whole market.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, back to what we were talking about, though. I mean, even if you look at the bullpen, there's a couple of guys that could be gone versus, because of arbitration. Dunsing and Swarzak are arbitration guys. Casey Fien is for the first time. But now you've got Presley and Tonkin, and we'd like to think Jake Reed and Nick Birdie, and hopefully Mason Militakis is healthy. Those guys might be better, and at the same time, cost less. I mean, isn't that just smart to go with the better pitcher, and if he happens to make less, that's a good thing? I mean, that's just,
I would think so.
That's part of the stuff that I just, I mean, I get it. I'd love to see them go get Lester. I'd love to see them go get Scherzer, and if they do, I'll be thrilled. But one, I'm more realistic than that, and two, if they're not going to get those guys, realize that the guys you've been developing, I mean, the whole point of these three, at least the last couple years, has been to build this minor league system up. And this year we saw Arcia take a step and Dozier become kind of a leader type of person. Gibson made it through a full year. We saw May, Vargas, and Santana. Pinto will probably get another chance. Next year we could see Sano, Buxton, Meyer, Rosario. The year after that, probably Barrios. Birdie will show up at some point. Reed. I mean, these guys are all part of that equation. That's the reason that, that's what they've been building towards. And those guys are going to be inexpensive for the first 3 years of their career. So, I mean, that's my point is when the Twins were good, it was because they had this core of players that they built from within. That's what happened in 87. They kind of all came up and struggled and then got good together. And then 91, they supplemented a couple of veterans into that young core. And then they were bad for a little while. But then that 2002 team, let's not forget that 1999 team that lost a lot of games, they started with like 13 rookies on that roster and let those guys play and struggle. And so next year I don't expect them to win 100 games. I don't expect them to win 80. But I expect that a lot of those young guys that are going to be the next core for hopefully a half decade or more of really good baseball is starting to get their opportunity. And to me, that's what fans should be counting on more than what the actual payroll is. I mean, whether it's $95 million or $75 million, as long as the right players are playing in the game, that's all that matters.
Right. The thing is, I mean, I get it why there's frustration, and I'm sure you do too. But there's, I mean, Masterson's one name that we brought up, and the Twins have kind of been, I don't want to say they scrap heaping it, but Mike Pelfrey was kind of a scrap heap buy. And we've seen that with you're right, but I mean that's what those guys are. I mean you can get, I mean you're taking a shot. Joel Zamaya. There's probably other names that are out there that are pretty much the same. That's what the Twins have done.
You can go get Josh Johnson if you want.
See, but why not do that? Why not roll the dice on guys that Zamaya was coming off very, very serious deals. He hadn't pitched in forever. There was the other guy that they had 2 years ago. He was a star. Who did he pitch for?
Rich Harden.
Rich Harden. I mean, yep. I don't know that fans are gonna get bent out of shape when it's a guy like that, because you're not banking on that guy. But when it's like, hey, we need a number 5 starter, well, let's go get Mike Pelfrey. That's why there's such a frustration. If the Twins went out and said, hey, we're gonna go give Josh Johnson X amount of money because he could do it, and here's what we're thinking, we're not banking on him like we banked on Pelfrey, I don't think there would be the frustration. Hey, Masterson is a buy low guy. Josh Johnson could be a buy low guy. there's a lot of those guys out there, and I would like to see the Twins go there, but don't take the guy that we all know is going to be terrible. Take a guy that has an actual shot.
Well, I think we'd all agree, but I think Ricky Nolasco fits into the category of a guy we know is a pretty good pitcher.
Right, and but
you know,
but I'd be fine with a signing like that if it was the right guy.
But it's impossible in free agency to know who the right guys are. The thing about Rich Harden's deal was it was perfect because it was a minor league deal. You know, even the Zumaya deal was only like $1 million. No big deal there. You know, when you're talking about Masterson, if you're going to give him a multi-year type of a deal, I think people can say, hey, yeah, they went out and they spent. That's great. But when he gets hurt and he puts up another 6 ERA this year, then they're going to whine about why would they pay so much for this guy. Well, I mean, with free agency, it's all about risks, you know, and some are going to pan out and more aren't.
Okay, so I'm going to throw some names out there. I'm assuming Brett Anderson's going to get bought out of his deal.
Yeah.
27, lefty. He's worth a flyer, in my opinion.
I mean, he's in the same category as Tommy Malone.
Right.
So Twins fans listening, if anyone's listening, take that for what it's worth.
Right. Giovanni Gallardo is going to he's got a club option. I'm assuming that the Brewers will pay him the $13 million. Josh Johnson has a $4 million club option. I'm assuming he'll be bought out. Lester's obviously going to get a ton. Francisco Liriano is a free agent again. I don't know if there's interest there, but at 31 years old, there's been crazier things. Masterson's 30. Sure. Brandon Morrow, does he have another arm deal? He's got a $10 million club option. He's always had issues. But, I mean, he's another guy that's only 30. I wouldn't mind the Twins going that route. And I don't know if
if they're 1 year, $1 million deals, great. If they're minor league deals, great. But otherwise, let Tommy Malone pitch. Let Trevor May. Let Kyle Gibson. Let Alex Meyer. You know,
Meyer's not going to start the year in the major leagues.
Well, and I agree. I'm just saying, are you going to go sign someone for $12 million to be there for a month until Meyer's ready?
No, but why not? Why not ease Meyer in the way that other guys have been eased in through the bullpen? I mean, that's what the Blue Jays did with Sanchez this year. It seemed to work out pretty well. That's what the Twins did with Liriano and Santana. It seemed to work out pretty well. Yeah. I mean, we could sit here and say, well, the payroll's not going to go up. There's no one to get. But there's still guys that can help a little bit. And I'd be willing to shell out a couple million just to see. I mean, you could find, Vance Worley cost the Pirates nothing. And they didn't have a spot in the rotation, and they really didn't have a spot in the rotation for him all year. But when he was effective, he was a worthwhile get for probably whatever, $50,000 is probably what it costs him. And I'm afraid that if the Twins just sit tight because they say, well, we can't do anything with our payroll, that's a giant issue.
Well, and I don't think they're saying that. I don't think that's the reason they would do nothing. And like you said, I'll take anyone for nothing. I'll take anyone on a minor league deal. I know Twins fans hated when they got guys like Guerrero and Kubel and Bartlett last year, but they were all minor league deals. So, I mean, you take your chances with those guys. They did the same thing with Fien, and he turned out good. They did the same with Burton, and he turned out good. I mean, there's been a lot of goods in those minor league signings, and I'll take any of those. If you want to sign Josh Johnson on a minor league deal, I'm all for it.
There are three. You mentioned left field, and I think as we go into next season, RC is going to be the right fielder. Some combination of Santana and Schaefer will probably be the center fielder. Maybe you want to look at the center field too, but as it is with pending free agents, the only guys listed that are under 30, Mike Karp is 29, Tyler Colvin is 29, Delman Young is 29, and Colby Rasmus is 28. Everybody else is either 30 or older, left field or center field. Do you think that the Twins should go into this offseason thinking, hey, let's get a bat for the outfield?
Absolutely.
And do you think that it's going to be someone on that side of 30 or on the other side of 30?
I would hope it's someone on that side of 30, but I mean, who knows? I mean, you look at it, like you said, Arcia is going to be the right fielder. And, they have a decision to make, and I don't know. They may decide that as early as this week on what Danny Santana's role is going to be and what Eduardo Escobar's role is going to be. I mean, everything we've heard certainly points towards Santana at short and Escobar as a utility guy. They'll have Jordan Schaefer, presumably, and Aaron Hicks is still in the picture. But either way, you still need a backup to those guys, or if they're going to be backups, you need someone who's going to start. So, I mean, I would certainly prefer a younger guy, but Torrey Hunter's name's out there. Not that I can imagine him coming back either, but you need to add somebody there.
So, but who? I mean, if it's Colby Rasmus, I can't assume that he's taking a 1-year deal.
Well, after hitting 202 or 212 or whatever this year, he might have to.
Is that really how bad he was?
I looked at it yesterday. It was like 212 with a 290 on base percentage or something.
So basically, what you're paying for is a guy that gets on base less than Aaron Hicks.
Right.
Sounds like a waste of money.
Right.
He batted 225, so let's just pump the brakes on that one. 225 with an OBP of 287. That's not very good.
Nope.
You're not gonna bat him leadoff.
Nope.
Toronto batted him 8th.
Yeah, I mean Santana's gonna lead off.
And also you know what his career batting average is?
Not good.
246.
Yep.
With a 313 on base percentage. You know who this guy is? He's Aaron Hicks with a little bit more power and less speed.
Right.
So why want him? Well, why would someone want him on the team?
I don't know. Because Aaron Hicks is still young enough that you could put him in AAA, or you could platoon him with Aaron Hicks, or I mean, you need another outfielder. I don't think Eduardo Nunez is the answer out there anymore. I mean, you could do some sort of 3-player Schaefer, Hicks, and somebody else to kind of go through center and left.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, defense matters too, and all 3 of those guys will be fine. So, I mean, they could make it work.
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, I'm looking at the list of guys, and it's like, I don't really. I don't think I'd sign any of them. I don't know. Let's do some questions since we don't really have any great answer there. I didn't see anything on the website. I will click one more time, and then we just got a couple. We got one from Charlie Barker, and his is AT&T Charlie B, and he's wondering what the honest ETA of Miguel Sano is. To which Kanzler actually replied to it, and he said, Sano drives a BMW, so he is bound to get where he is going faster than us. Which is funny. I mean, that's good humor. And I also then wanted to point out that Steve Boer also drives a BMW. So maybe that's just a Cedar Rapids thing.
Yeah.
So what is your honest ETA on Sano?
See, last year I think you and I both thought that he could be up by mid-May, or certainly by All-Star game at the latest, Futures game at the latest. So that's early July. I would actually say this year I'd be a little bit more cautious on that. I'd say the earliest would be like late June. It could be as late as into early August, I think, but I think he'll surface. I mean, I think we just kind of have to pump the brakes on that a little bit. He did miss an entire year. Buxton's at least getting some time in the Arizona Fall League that Sano's not getting right now. So I mean, that's right. A lot of rust to shake off, and just assume that he's going to come back crushing baseballs again. I have full confidence he's going to return to that player, but I'd pump the brakes on it a little bit. So I would say, probably closer to July as opposed to May.
Right. He'll start the season in Chattanooga, and you got to figure he's going to get at least at minimum. Well, but he doesn't have to go to Rochester. I think give him 6 weeks minimum at New Britain, or at Chattanooga, excuse me, and a minimum of 6 more weeks at Rochester. That's not much at all. I'm curious to see how the Twins use him in spring training. If he's full go at third base and he can play every day, but you almost worry that with his arm that he'll end up playing some first, playing some DH, playing some left. That's not going to accelerate his ability to play in the big leagues if he's not getting consistent reps at one position.
No, they're going to play him at third base solely.
That's my hope.
He'll DH to rest the arm, but they're not going to have him all over the diamond. That'll mess him up even more than anything else.
Right. So a minimum of 3 months in the minors from my perspective, that's April, May, June. So we're talking 4th of July. Bring him up with Barrios. They can both start on the 4th of July. It'll be fantastic.
There you go.
Otherwise, I don't think we had any other questions.
Here's a quick question. I was just jotting it down because I've written New Britain about 1 billion times for where players will start next year.
Right.
As opposed to starting to say Chattanooga. Same thing. I mean, it took me a little while with the Cedar Rapids thing, and I probably still mess that up from time to time. So this Chattanooga thing, I was just jotting down what a potential lineup could be for Chattanooga next year.
It's crazy.
Stuart Turner at catcher, Dalton Hicks at first base, Levi Michael at second, Jorge Polanco at short, Miguel Sano at third, Eddie Rosario in left, Byron Buxton in center, Adam Brett Walker in right, and you could have Travis Harrison DHing.
Or Kepler.
Kepler could play first too. So I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yep.
And Goodrum, he may go back to Fort Myers. He could be in that equation. And then from a pitching standpoint, you could be talking about Duffy and Wheeler and Rogers and Barrios and Birdie, and they could jump, Jake Reed all the way up there. Zach Jones will be up there. Tyler Jones probably. Brett Lee could be up there. I mean, they
might not lose.
I'm trying to pick out a loss on their 140-game schedule. I don't know if I can.
You literally cannot do it.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Should we just go to Chattanooga now? Should we just relocate?
I think we should. And also, did you know Jake Reed was named the Arizona Fall League Pitcher of the Week for Week 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
That's crazy. That's ridiculous. We've been rolling for almost 90 minutes. I think we've probably covered everything we need to cover for the week. Big thanks to Jason Kanzler for joining us. We hope to have another guest next week, maybe 2, if Seth can get his ducks in a row.
It'll happen.
Eventually. And, we should stay tuned for next week, though, because I got stuff going on next Tuesday, and I don't think I'll be back by 9 o'clock, so we might have to move it to Wednesday to get it done.
Hey, just pay attention to Twins Hangouts on Twitter or to our Twitter accounts, or you'll see it on Twins Daily too.
Right, and then hopefully sometime we'll have some prospect handbook news, right?
Hopefully soon, and very soon we'll have Twins Daily offseason handbook news, including the Terry Ryan interview that Parker had with the Twins GM last Wednesday, I believe. About an hour, he sat down with Parker and talked about pretty much everything. So Parker grilled him a little bit. I'll just say this. Parker asked questions, and this is maybe a tease. Parker asked Terry Ryan questions, to which Terry Ryan responded, "Why do you always have to get under my goat, Parker?" So
seriously?
Yeah, I said that a couple of times. So it's definitely interesting, and I've listened to it a few times. We transcribed it, and that'll be available here shortly.
That's fantastic. I refuse to promote something that I wasn't asked to help with.
I don't blame you.
So there it is. I'll promote the handbook. All right.
Prospect handbook. We can do it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Hopefully you had a good time. I feel like the Kanzler interview was funny and informative. So hopefully you at least made it through that, even if you don't hear the end of it. If you have any questions, you can obviously send them to us. You can download us on iTunes. You can check us out on YouTube. We're all over the place. Seth, do you have anything to add to that?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, another Tuesday in the books, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for hanging out.